Welcome to the EDLD 5345 Week 3 Assignment Overview. This week is on Mindset, Motivational Theory, and Instructional Coaching. Here are your weekly objectives. Upon successful completion of these weekly objectives, you'll be working towards mastery of these course level objectives. All of these objectives are listed in your Week 3 module in Blackboard. There will be no discussion board this week. Here are the readings for this week. You have 2 lecture videos from Jim Knight, one of the gurus in instructional coaching. They are 7 success factors for instructional coaching and why professional learning fails. Here's your to-do list. You're going to read the required readings. You're going to attend or view the Week 3 web conference in Learning in Action. You're going to view the Week 3 lecture videos from Jim Knight. And you're going to complete the Week 3 assignment. So let's talk about the assignment for this week. This week's assignment is a key assessment for our accreditation in the department. That means you need to complete all parts of this assignment in order to get your weekly grade. When you get to that assignment box in Blackboard, you're going to see 2 documents. You're going to see the weekly assignment template, and you're also going to see a document called the case study information. When you look at that case study information, it is going to give you information on a struggling teacher, Ms. Cardinal. It's going to tell you a little bit about Ms. Cardinal, her professional career and experience, what her class looks like as far as special pops and size. It's going to give you some notes about walkthroughs, what she struggles with, what the concerns are, and a little bit of different information to kind of help you kind of get a picture of who Ms. Cardinal is and what she's struggling with in the classroom, as well as some data on her students in sub-pops. So don't overthink it. This is just scenario data, so there may be a few little glitches, especially in the data piece, that don't quite match up. So don't overthink that. Just take it in general terms and kind of make generalizations to kind of get to know Ms. Cardinal. So now let's look at the assignment. In the assignment template, you're going to find section A, and that's all about growth and fixed mindset. You will see 2 charts there. One chart's fairly simple. The other one's a little more complex, so we're going to look at each one of those charts separately. So here's the first chart. You've got 2 columns. The first column gives you a characteristic or behavior. The second column is where you're going to put the type of mindset. So you're either going to type in growth or fixed. So let's look at the example. More data-driven in instructional performance changes. That means that teachers looking at data, they're making changes along the way. So that's going to be a growth mindset. So you would type growth. The second one's a little more complex with 4 columns. You've got the first column that's going to have a piece of the T-test evaluation system. The next column has fixed mindset, then growth mindset, and the final column says skills you will need to develop. And those are skills you need to develop as an instructional leader or a principal to help grow your staff and be sure that you're giving them support that they need and help guide them in the direction you need them to go. So our example is goal setting. If a teacher comes in with a fixed mindset to a goal setting session with you, they're gonna set a goal that is very broad and very general. If a teacher comes in with that growth mindset in that goal setting situation, they're going to reflect on their data, how their students react to their instruction, their evaluation, maybe what they learned over the summer. They're going to take all those pieces to incorporate and make that goal for themselves for the year. Now, anytime you have a conference with a teacher, you want to use that 90-10 rule. They're going to talk 90% of the time. You're going to talk 10% of the time. So in knowing that, a skill that you would need to know and develop, and one that I had to develop over time as a principal and I'm still working on, is questioning skills. So you need to have that ability to prompt those teachers' reflections. Ask those questions. Get them to move towards that pinpointed targeted area that you've chosen for them to work on. Some teachers will throw a little wrench in it every now and then, and you have to be on your toes. That's why I say I'm still working on it. So that's just a skill that you need to know as an instructional leader, and something that you need to grow on and that you can continue to grow on. In section B of your assignment template, it's about motivational theory. So in your readings, you had 2 articles on motivational theory. You are asked to choose one of those articles, and that's really the only one you have to read, but you're free to read both of them. Then you're going to answer the questions, provide a complete answer. You're going to reference those articles and what you learned in them, and you're going to use APA format. So again, we're not going to tell you how many words or how long. You need to answer it completely. Look at your rubric to see how clearly you need to answer it. You know that you need to reference the material in the articles and that you need to use APA format. So here's what that looks like. One of the questions is, what are the main points of this reading? And you need to focus on concepts, ideas, and themes, not just on individual facts. You're going to type your answer. There's an example of what APA format might look like. You've got that link or that web address to alpurdue.edu for resources in APA. And just for clarification, when the question asks about the muddiest point, that's one of those points that's still not real clear to you. You just don't quite have it. You still have questions about it. You still need to learn things about it. So that's what a muddiest point is. In section C, it's all about creating an instructional coaching plan. So we have chosen in the assignment for you to help this teacher work on dimension 2.4 of the T-test rubric, which is differentiation. So when you look at the case study and information you have on this teacher, it will lend itself to several different ways to work on differentiation with this teacher. So you do have some resources in this assignment. You have some look-fors, you have the rubric link, and you have a link to sample conference questions. So again, you're going to create that instructional coaching plan on dimension 2.4 of the T-test rubric, which is differentiation. So let's look at it. So you got the date of the conference and the teacher's name, which is Miss Cardinal. Just pick a date. The targeted coaching topic is differentiation, dimension 2.4 of that T-test rubric. So look at that rubric, look at the bullets underneath it if you have any questions on that. Then you're going to write some reflective questions. These are the questions that you're going to ask Miss Cardinal to help her reflect and think about her practice in differentiation within that lesson you observed. If you copy those questions from those sample conference questions, just make a quick reference as to this comes from the selection of questions from those sample questions. You don't have to do a full citation for that. Then you're going to put evidence from the observation. You're free to copy and paste here from those notes from Mrs. Cardinal's observation. This is one time you wouldn't have to APA cite that because that you're just going to talk about with that teacher what you saw. So you've given her the questions, you've talked a little bit about through a couple of things, and you're going to say, well, this is what I noted in the observation, and then list out those things that you've got as evidence from that observation. You're going to identify a targeted goal. You're going to use that SMART goal system. So remember, specific, measurable, time-bound. So create that goal, type that goal right there. Think about research to support the need to improve in this area. So what are the researchers saying? Why is differentiation important to the success of all students in closing gaps? So if you need to go a little more library and pull some information, you're free to do that. If you do that, you need to use your password and your username from your email. And then I'll give you a couple of other suggestions in this next slide of other resources that you might use. Then this one is about suggested strategies or skills. So think about some things you're going to suggest or some skills you're going to suggest to this teacher. Here again are those resource slides. You've got Jim Knight's work, you've got Marzano's work, you've got that research from the library for articles. I will tell you there's a book called Getting Better Faster by Brambricks and Toyo. And I'm a little embarrassed to say I've had this book. I got it towards the end of my career as a principal as I was coming on to Lamar, and I kind of let it sit on my shelf. But after some training this week, I kind of see a little different lens and a different value to that book. So again, it's by Brambricks and Toyo. Get Better Faster. And notice how I put getting. So I added an ing on that side, but it is Get Better Faster. I think it's a great resource book for you professionally. So it may be something you want to look into, and it definitely will be something we look into bringing into this course as we move forward and refine it. The other book is Teach Like a Champion. Great book for strategies. If you are weak in instruction, I encourage you now, before you take the 268, to kind of get some of these professional resources and start reading them and looking at them. Both of these books are on the 268 read list to prepare for the 268, as is that Leverage Leadership book and that Breakthrough Principles book. So let's continue on with the coaching template. This next bullet is where you're going to put that step-by-step guide of how you want that teacher to use this strategy or suggestion you're asking them to do in the classroom. So step-by-step, exactly what they want them to do. In a coaching situation, you would have it written down, you would model it, and then you would have them model it back to make sure they understood it. And then you're going to talk about evidence. How are you going to know that this worked in the classroom? So what are you looking for? What are you looking for this teacher to bring back to you in a conference, or for you to be able to see when you go back into that teacher's classroom to show that they're working on this? Then there's the timeline. Think of the pieces and the timeline as you go along. Like maybe another coaching session. Maybe some hand cues and coming in and giving hand cues before you do a formal walkthrough or evaluation. Maybe you're going to send them to see another teacher. When are you going to go back in for that walkthrough? Those are the kind of things you're going to kind of see on that timeline. Then there's a place for you to put support and resources. So this may be some articles you want them to read or some things you want them to look at to continue to grow in this area. And again, just a reminder to be sure to use appropriate APA citations. And Purdue is a great place to get support for that for you. And then the final section, Section D. Section D is all about documentation. And you've heard us say, you've heard our guest speakers say, documentation is important. Documentation is truly important when you're not going to renew a teacher, especially if it goes to the grievance process or to a lawsuit. That documentation will be pulled, and you've got to show that you've worked with this teacher over time, that you gave them the tools they needed and tried to support them, and they still didn't improve. So you're going to create 2 documents, and these are of your choice. They're any kind of documents, but they need to show some kind of support or some kind of conference you had with this teacher, or maybe resources you provided. Look in your documentation handbook. It gives you great examples of some templates. It also gives you great information about the specific things that need to be in those documents in order for them to hold up in a court or the grievance process. So that is the week 3 assignment in a nutshell. I'm going to leave you with this quote. No one cares about your fears, your excuses, or your so-called reasons of why you shouldn't do what you need to do. And neither should you. Being an instructional leader is hard. And sometimes it's hard when you're friends to do what you need to do for those students in that classroom, because that teacher may not be cutting it, but you got to do it. You can't have a fear about it. You can't have any excuse or reason about it. You just have to do it. So remember, chasing big dreams requires doing the things that you don't want to do. In fact, the things you are afraid of most are usually the exact things that you should do. Having conversations are hard. They are very hard. I was very fearful of them. Confrontation is hard, but you just got to face it heads on. And this quote goes on to say, you don't grow from what is easy, only from the hardships you face. The more you challenge yourself to overcome your limiting beliefs, your fears, and doubts, the sooner you will reach your goals. And that comes from Kobe Bryant. So remember to stretch yourself. Step out of your comfort zone. Some of you are elementary and you're going to have to learn secondary. Some of you are secondary and you're going to have to learn elementary. Remember, this 268 test is all levels, so you're going to have questions from elementary, middle, and high school. So stretch yourself. Your section professors are here to support you, and we look forward to a great week.